ever imagine yourself not just in a lab, but like leading one?
Oh, wow.
You brought us some seriously cool role catcher guides all about becoming a medical laboratory technology vocational teacher.
Yeah,
That's a mouthful,
it is.
but it sounds like such a cool niche.
It is.
So let's dive into this whole blend of science and education.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating career path. You're basically, training the next generation of those lab professionals, the folks behind the scenes,
Right.
those really essential people who help diagnose and treat patients.
Okay, so we're talking more than just like, the stereotypical microscopes and test tubes here. It's
Yes.
like we're shaping the future of healthcare,
Oh.
one student at a time.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, but what does that actually look like day to day?
So RoleCatcher really emphasizes the two sides, like the dual role these teachers have.
Okay.
So imagine this. You're crafting engaging lesson plans, designing this awesome curriculum,
Right.
but you're also right there in the lab with your students, guiding them if they're learning how to analyze like blood samples,
Wow.
looking for things, like disease markers, all that.
Disease markers. Okay, that sounds pretty intense.
It can be. It can be. But that's why having a really skilled and passionate teacher is key.
Oh, for sure.
You're teaching them to use, sophisticated equipment.
Right.
Things like flow cytometers to identify different cell types,
Wow.
all while you're also making sure they get the theory behind it,
So you're not just teaching them the what, you're teaching them the why.
Exactly.
That's a huge responsibility.
Absolutely. And RoleCatcher really drives that home. That balance between the theoretical and the practical. That's critical in this job.
Makes sense.
You need to know your stuff to be able to break it down.
Right. And we're talking students with all sorts of different learning styles, levels of experience.
For sure.
You've got to be adaptable.
Oh, yeah. And you're right about the different levels. You could have students fresh out of high school,
Yeah.
those who are switching careers, maybe even some folks already in healthcare
Yeah.
looking for that next step.
Talk about variety.
Right. And on top of that, the actual work environment itself, that can change too.
Really?
RoleCatcher mentioned community colleges, vocational schools, even hospitals.
Hmm.
Each one's going to have its own feel, its own resources, its own challenges,
For sure, for sure. But one thing that seems pretty consistent no matter where you are, the lab.
Oh, absolutely.
And with labs comes a huge emphasis on safety.
Huge. You're not just responsible for your own safety, but for a whole classroom of students.
Wow, yeah.
RoleCatcher doesn't mess around with that. They've got a whole section dedicated to safety protocols, which makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
Hazardous materials, infectious diseases, it's serious stuff.
Okay, so we're talking about a career that's demanding, detail-oriented, maybe even a little bit dangerous,
A little bit.
but also incredibly rewarding. You're shaping the future of healthcare.
You are.
Now, I'm curious about the realities, the pros and cons.
Yeah.
Let's unpack those. So we've established this isn't exactly, a walk in the park, right?
Right.
This career.
Yeah.
But for those who, are drawn to the lab, what are the rewards?
Yeah.
RoleCatcher seems really gung-ho about the whole job security thing.
Oh, yeah. They weren't kidding about that.
Right.
Remember we were talking about like medical lab techs being in such high demand?
Yeah.
Well, get this. RoleCatcher's data predicts a 15% increase in demand for, get this, medical lab tech teachers over the next 5 years.
Whoa.
That's massive.
15%. That's way faster than average.
Yeah.
No wonder they were like job security. You got it.
Right.
But it's got to be more than just the paycheck.
You're preaching to the choir. Imagine that feeling,
Yeah.
knowing you're playing a real part in shaping like the whole healthcare field.
Right.
These students, they're going to be on the front lines.
Right.
Diagnosing patients,
Yeah.
treating them.
Yeah.
You're passing on those skills,
Yeah.
and those skills have a real impact on people's lives.
That's what I'm talking about, making a difference.
Exactly.
And I bet the energy in those classrooms, man.
Oh, yeah.
You're surrounded by people who are passionate about science,
The best.
eager to learn. It's got to be
Yeah.
contagious.
It's so true. RoleCatcher actually mentions that a lot of vocational teachers, they just love that mentorship aspect.
Oh, yeah.
Guiding those eager minds, watching them kind of, blossom into these awesome professionals.
So cool. Okay, so far so good.
Right.
But I know you, and you're all about the full picture.
I am.
So what about those downsides?
Oh, yes.
What about the potential downsides?
Of course.
RoleCatcher mentioned a few.
Yeah.
We talked about the lab environment a bit.
Right.
But what else should our listeners be aware of?
You're right. It's not all, fun experiments and perfect results every time.
Right.
The guide is very upfront about that.
Yeah.
You're going to have long hours,
Yeah.
potentially some high-stress
Oh,
situations.
yeah, for sure.
Remember, it's not just your own to-do list you're managing.
Right.
You're responsible for a whole room of students,
A whole group of people.
their education, their safety,
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
and a big responsibility.
Yeah.
And then there's the fact that things are always changing, right?
That's true.
So you can't just learn it once and be done.
Right. Especially in science. Things are constantly evolving.
Exactly. You've got to
Yeah.
keep up. So that means continuous professional development, conferences, maybe some extra courses.
Oh, right.
Always got to be learning new things.
Wow. So you've really got to be dedicated inside and outside the classroom.
That's true. It's not for everyone, but
Yeah.
for the right person, it's amazing.
Someone with like a true passion for teaching and, a strong stomach for all the science stuff.
Yeah. And don't forget,
Okay.
there's room to grow within the field.
Okay, there we go.
You're not stuck in one place forever.
Right.
There's a whole path laid out.
Okay. Speaking of, RoleCatcher lays out a whole, career trajectory thing, right?
Yeah,
So you're saying in this field, you're not just like stuck.
Oh, no, not at all.
Once you get a job, that's it.
Not even close.
There's like a whole ladder you can climb.
RoleCatcher lays out a pretty clear progression, yeah.
Okay, I like where this is going.
And the cool part is it's not like one size fits all.
Right. Everyone's path is different.
Exactly. So let's say you decide, okay, I'm going for it.
Yeah,
Medical laboratory technology vocational teacher, here I come.
right. You're taking the plunge.
What do those first couple of years actually look like?
Yeah, where do you even begin?
Well, you might be surprised.
Okay.
It's like an apprenticeship in a way.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher really emphasized that. At the entry level,
Right.
you'd probably be paired up with a more, seasoned instructor.
Oh, so you're not just thrown into the deep end.
Exactly. Think of it as mentorship.
Yeah.
On the job.
Okay, I like that.
You shadow them, learn how they do things,
Okay.
curriculum development, maybe even leading some smaller groups in the lab.
So you're getting your feet wet, building confidence.
That's the idea.
It's like having a lab partner, but for your teaching career.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
And then as you gain experience, you naturally move from assisting to leading.
Makes sense. So you've put in the time, you've observed, you've learned.
Right.
What's next? What does that next level look like?
Mid-level, this is where things get really fun. Because now you get to be creative.
Oh, okay.
You're not just following someone else's lesson plans anymore.
Right.
You're designing your own.
That's awesome.
RoleCatcher really highlights this, coming up with engaging activities, figuring out how to reach different types of learners.
Oh, for sure. You're putting your own stamp on things.
Exactly. And just imagine
Yeah.
seeing your ideas come to life
Right.
in the lab.
Right.
And those aha moments.
Yeah. When the students really get it,
The best.
that's gotta feel good. And at this level, you're also starting to mentor the newer teachers, right?
Absolutely. Mentorship's a huge part of it.
So it's like this cycle, passing on that knowledge.
Exactly. Knowledge and experience constantly growing.
I love that. And it makes sense, the more you teach,
Yeah.
the more you realize there's always more to learn.
Always.
Which brings us to the tippy top of this whole career mountain,
Okay. The peak.
senior level,
Oh.
and beyond. What's that like?
Now we're talking about shaping the whole field.
Wow.
This is where you might be overseeing entire programs, maybe influencing curriculum design at a regional level,
Wow.
national level even.
So you're setting the bar for how these future medical lab techs are trained.
That's the idea. And RoleCatcher even talks about, maybe building partnerships
Right, interesting.
with hospitals, research labs, all sorts of places.
So your work could be leading to all sorts of cool advancements.
Exactly. Better technology, better patient care.
Talk about a ripple effect.
Pretty cool, huh?
Huh.
And that's actually why RoleCatcher keeps coming back to the importance of, continuous learning.
Oh, for sure. Got to keep those skills sharp.
You can never rest on your laurels in this field,
Yeah.
especially with how fast things are changing.
Absolutely. And speaking of skills, let's talk specifics. We've touched on science, obviously.
Right.
But what else did RoleCatcher emphasize?
Well, a strong science background is non-negotiable.
Of course.
Biology, chemistry, that's the foundation.
Makes sense.
They actually put a big emphasis on chemistry knowledge.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Like 89%, right.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not just about being a scientist yourself, is it?
Right. You've got to be able to teach it, too.
Exactly. They were really big on strong instructional techniques.
Yeah.
You need to be able to design a curriculum, manage a classroom, the whole 9 yards.
Right. Create that environment where students can really thrive. Speaking of being prepared,
Yeah.
remember those interview guides we talked about?
Oh, yeah, those were cool.
RoleCatcher has a whole section on acing those interviews.
They did, and it wasn't just generic advice either. They had sample questions tailored to this specific career path.
That's awesome. It's like having a cheat sheet.
Right. And they even have these AI-powered practice tools. Can you believe that?
Whoa, really? That's wild. It's like having a personal interview coach right in your pocket.
It's pretty amazing. They really went above and beyond.
They did.
Yeah,
This whole deep dive, it's been eye-opening.
it really has.
I've only scratched the surface, but I feel like our listeners have a much better idea of what it takes to be a medical laboratory technology vocational teacher.
Been a pleasure exploring all this with you.
Likewise. And for you listening out there, remember, this is just the beginning. If you've got that drive to learn, to teach, and to make a difference in healthcare, this could be your path. Good luck.